All right, we're in 2 Kings. We're beginning a new book, 2 Kings chapter number 1. And, we're going to see, some more of some of the same things, but maybe in a little more detail. And then as we go on through into 1st and 2nd Chronicles, we're going to see some more of some of the same stories that God had pinned down. And it's sharing more details about the kings and those that were involved with Israel's history. So, and then we're going to see here this week and next week we'll see the end of Elijah. So he is about at the end of his life's journey here. So. But God is still using him, and we're going to see that in this chapter. God uses him tremendously. We serve a God that can do anything. Whatever is needful, whatever we need, God can do it. So, but we're going to begin here, 2 Kings chapter 1, verse 1. Then Moab rebelled against Israel after the death of Ahab. So, after Ahab had died, the Moabite people, they began to rise up against Israel. And this was kind of part of the political situation that they were having under Hazael. And, he's terrible. And, this is Jezebel's son, Jezebel and Ahab's son, but, he's just as bad as what his father was, and maybe worse. Because he had seen what his father had gone through and his mother, but yet he still follows in that footstep. It's sad that, and it's the same way today. We have people that they see all kind of examples before them, and they see what happens to folks that does evil, and they're going to get arrested. They're going to get whatever. They might die from the evil that they're doing. But yet we still have people that are just repeating over and over and over some of the same things, instead of following examples that we see what happens to them. That should inspire us not to go down that road. So, but Moab did rebel against Israel. They maybe thought with the changing, and a lot of times with the changing of kings in countries all around the world that had kings, when they would change families, there was turmoil in that nation for a while until they got established. And it was easily overtaken. So maybe that's what the Moabite people thought. But had they done what God told them to do, then all this might not have been taking place. But we're long past that, and they're suffering for not doing what God said. Verse 2. And Ahaziah fell down through a lattice in his upper chamber that was in Samaria, and was sick. And he sent messengers and said unto them, Go, inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover of this disease. I'm thinking, wow. These people, Ahab, and even the kings before him, they liked to party. They liked to just have a wonderful time. Possibly maybe he was drunk or whatever. But for some reason, he's fallen through some lattice, and maybe some of it has stuck in his side, whatever, but he's extremely sick. but he wants to know if he's going to recover from the sickness. So instead of inquiring of God, he's already seen his daddy Ahab, his mother Jezebel, follow Baal, and what had happened to them, and they both died, and God had sent them a message that the dogs will lick your blood off of the ground. And with Jezebel, when she dies, it's going to be they're going to eat your flesh. But yet he still sends messengers to go and inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron. That was the god of her mother and her father, because he followed, and that's why God did not want any of Israel intermarrying with other people, because God knew these other Gentile people followed false gods. He knew that would pull his people away from him. That's what's happened. And Ahaziah he's just as bad. So with him sending these folks to inquire of Beelzebub, but the angel of the Lord said to Elijah the Tishbite, "Arise, go up to meet the messengers of the king of Samaria, and say unto them, Is it not because there is not a God in Israel that you go to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron?" So God tells you, you go over here, and these messengers are going to be passing down this road here. You go over here and wait, and they're going to come by you, and you ask them, "Is there not a God of Israel that you could ask these questions? Why are you going to ask Beelzebub, a false god? He's not going to give you no answer. He can't answer." All these messengers could do is really share what they thought. And that's it. Regardless of how many times they asked Baal or Beelzebub, whatever you want to call him, it's evil. It's worshiping idols. It's worshiping the wrong thing. He could not give them any answer. God says, you're inquiring of the wrong one. And there's so many like that today. They either look, if they're sick, they look to the doctor, they look to a nurse, they look to anybody but God. And then when they get kind of at the end of their rope, then somebody told me about God. Let me inquire of him. But we shouldn't wait till last. God should be first in everything in our life. Everything. But God told Elijah what to ask. "Now therefore, thus saith the Lord, thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die." And Elijah departed. So Elijah told him, said, "You go back and tell the man that sent you over here, you go back and tell him, you're not getting up off of that bed, you're going to die." And he left them. They obviously didn't know who Elijah was. For some reason, I don't know why they wouldn't have known. He killed 450 of Baal's prophets. And Jezebel wanted him dead. He hid in a cave, and God told him, "What are you doing in here? Get out of this cave." But they act like they don't even know him, but he departed. And when the messengers turned back unto him, he said unto them, "Why are you now turned back?" Now, Ahaziah they've come back too quick to have went over to seek out Beelzebub, the god of Ekron. They've come back too quick. Why have you returned so quickly? You haven't had time to go over there and inquire of Beelzebub. And they said unto him, There came a man up to meet us, and said unto us, Go, turn again unto the king that sent you, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Is it not because there is not a God in Israel, that thou sendest to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? Therefore thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shall surely die. So, they tell him exactly what Elijah's told him. Hey, he told us, is there not a God in Israel that can answer this? He says, he shared with us, you're going to die. You're doomed. You're not getting up out of the bed. I don't know with this lattice, if he had some up inside of him, they couldn't get it out, and it's caused such an infection. What? There's no telling, but he's dying. At this point in history, I don't read of where a lot of surgeries were done. Now, I know you can read ancient history, you can find where there were a few, but most of those died. They didn't make it. So, but, he's not even given that a chance. So, but God's done told him, you're going to die. That's it. And he said unto them, What manner of man was he which came up to meet you and told you these words? What did he look like? And they answered him, He was an hairy man, and girt with a girdle of leather about his loins. And he said, It is Elijah the Tishbite. So Ahaziah knew who he was. They began to describe him. He's a hairy man. And he had a leather girdle about him. That's Elijah. Lord have mercy. Ahab's son, Jezebel's son, knew who Elijah was. So, and he knows without a doubt, really, that Elijah is a prophet of God. That God he uses Elijah tremendously. And you know what? God can use us if we'll let him. He can, in whatever manner he sees fit, he could use us if we just, Lord, here I am. Stay as close to him as we possibly can. God would use us. Then the king sent unto him a captain of 50 with his 50. And he went up to meet him, and behold, he sat on the top of a hill. And he spake unto him, Thou man of God, the king hath said, Come down. So Elijah, I can just see this. He gets up here on the hill, and he's just sitting up there listening at this captain of 50 soldiers. This man says, the king says for you to come down from there. They're talking about the wrong king. Elijah is not going to bow down to any man that's king. He is following the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's following the only God that there is. So he's sitting up on this hill, and Elijah answered and said to the captain of 50, If I be a man of God, then let fire come down from heaven and consume thee and thy 50. And there came down fire from heaven and consumed him and his 50. That's trusting God. That's putting all trust, all faith in God. Hey, if I'm a man of God, fire's going to come down and consume you and your 50 little soldiers you got sitting there with you. And that's what happens. Our God is amazing. No doubt if Elijah had came down, they would have done him harm. Because Hazael knows him, and he knows that really there was a death warrant out for him. His mother and father wanted Elijah dead. And more especially Jezebel. So, you know, he just, you know, I can just see him sitting up here on this hill and just kind of laughing at them, you know. He mocked the prophets of Baal, and when they were trying to decide whose God was God, and they had sacrificed a bullock and cut it up and put it on an altar, and they were trying to call fire down from heaven and dancing around, hollering and screaming, began to cut themselves, and Elijah's just over there mocking them. Hey, your God must be asleep. And, you know, I can see that here. He's like, hey, you know what? I'm not coming down with you. If I'm a man of God, you're dead. You know, fire's going to consume you. And that's what happened. You know, our God is just so amazing. Again, also, he sent unto him another captain of 50 with his 50. And he answered and said unto him, O man of God, thus hath the king said, come down quickly. The same situation again. Here we go again. You get down from up there. You know, this captain is probably thinking, you know what? I'm a mighty man of valor. Here's a man sitting up here. He's all hairy. He must be pretty good size. He's got a girdle of leather. And, you know, a girdle's, you know, what I know is something that helps pull your gut in, you know. Maybe he's a pretty good sized fella. I don't know. But he's got a leather girdle on, and here he is, you know, here's this captain. He's like, get down from up there. You know, I'm telling you what to do. But Elijah pays really no attention to him as far as coming down quickly. And Elijah answered and said unto them, if I be a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and consume thee and thy 50. And the fire of God came down from heaven and consumed him and his 50. They're gone. Snuffed out. You know, our God can do anything. And you know, if we just continually do evil, you know what? God He can snuff us out. He can take us out of here. It's His choice. Whatever God does is just and righteous. No matter what man thinks about it. God is just in everything that He does. So these folks had done so evil. These armies, instead of saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to follow this evil way any longer. They just followed right along, just fell right in line. Hey, you know what? It's feeding me. You know, I've got everything I want. I've got, you know, but look what happens. Here's 102 men that's gone that quick. 2 captains and 2 sets of 50 soldiers. Gone. So 102 snuffed out, just trying to get Elijah to come from him being perched up here on a hill. But this third one, you know, maybe he's got a little more sense. And he sent again a captain of the third 50 with his 50. And the third captain of 50 went up and came and fell on his knees before Elijah and besought him and said unto him, O man of God, I pray thee, let my life and the life of these 50 thy servants be precious in thy sight. Now he didn't come up demanding, hey, get down from off of your perch up there. He come up here, hey, you know, he's done killed 102 folks. Hey, you know what he's doing really is begging for mercy. just have mercy. I pray thee, let my life and the life of these 50 servants be precious in thy sight. He fell on his knees and began to ask this of Elijah. You know, in essence, he was somewhat reverencing the position of Elijah, looking up to that position. So, you know, it's amazing. The third set that comes out, their captain finally learns. I'm not going out there demanding this man come off of that hill. There's no way. So he begs really mercy. And he says, behold, there came fire down from heaven and burned up the 2 captains of the former 50s with their 50s. Therefore let my life now be precious in thy sight. Again, you know what?